The man who broke 2 of my ribs and called it discipline is sitting 12 feet away from me. And for the first time in 6 years, his hands are the ones trembling, not mine. My name is Naomi Carter, 34 years old, pharmacist in Atlanta, and my heartbeat right now is so steady it frightens me. Because the golden boy of Atlanta's legal scene, the criminal defense attorney who swore nobody would ever believe me over a hail, is watching his world collapse. Dominic Xavier Hale, my husband, son of a retired judge, sweat dripping into his $3,000 suit, his mother sobbing in the front row, the same woman who watched him hit me and said I should be grateful. What brought him here wasn't the evidence. It was a phone call I made at 5:47 in the morning, lying on my kitchen floor with broken ribs to a number I'd saved 10 years but never dared dial. If you've ever trusted someone who turned out to be a stranger wearing a familiar face, stay with me. Drop where you're watching from and subscribe. This story takes a turn even I didn't see coming. Now let me take you back, not to the night he broke my ribs, but to the night I fell in love with the man who would. I grew up in Savannah, Georgia, in a little shotgun house on East Broad Street, with a yard full of azaleas my mama planted the year I was born. My mama, Lorraine Carter, was the kind of woman who could make you feel like the most important person on earth just by looking at you. She was a nurse at Memorial Health, worked double shifts most weeks, came home smelling like antiseptic and lavender lotion kicked off her shoes at the door, and still had enough love left to sit on the porch with me and my cousin Renata and braid our hair while the fireflies blinked across the yard. Renata was 5 years older than me. Her mama, my Aunt Diane, passed when Renata was 3, so my parents took her in. She wasn't my cousin. She was my sister. The kind of sister who'd fight a grown man if he looked at me sideways, who taught me how to ride a bike on Victory Drive, who held my hand at my mama's funeral and didn't let go for 3 hours straight. Because my mama died when I was 16, ovarian cancer. Diagnosed in April, gone by September. 5 months. That's all the time the universe gave us to say goodbye. And even that wasn't enough. It's never enough. My daddy, Ernest Carter, was a plumber, hands like leather, heart like butter. He raised me and Renata on his own after Mama passed. Worked 6 days a week, came home exhausted, but still sat at the kitchen table every night, asking about our homework, our friends, our dreams. He never remarried. I asked him once why, and he said,
"The baby girl, your mama set the bar so high, ain't nobody else gonna reach it, and I'm okay with that."
Renata joined the FBI right out of college, moved to Washington, D.C. She was brilliant, sharp mind, sharp tongue, afraid of absolutely nothing. She specialized in violent crimes, domestic cases mostly. I was so proud of her, I told everyone. My cousin Renata, FBI agent, protecting people. Then one day, 10 years ago, she vanished. Not literally. She called Daddy, said she needed to disappear for a while, said she couldn't explain, said, "Don't look for me." And then silence. No calls, no letters, no holidays, no birthdays. Just a hole in our family shaped exactly like her. Daddy never talked about it. I never stopped hurting from it. But I buried that hurt deep the way Carter women do. We bury things, we smile, we keep going. Looking back now, that habit of burying pain is exactly what almost killed me. After Mama passed, I threw myself into school. Pharmacy school at Mercer University, graduated top of my class, landed a job at Grady Memorial Hospital in Atlanta, one of the busiest hospitals in the Southeast. Within 4 years, I was pharmacy manager. I loved that job, loved the rhythm of it, the precision. Every prescription filled correctly could save a life. Every dosage mattered. I was good at things that mattered. That's where I met Maya Turner, 24 at the time, fresh out of pharmacy school, wide-eyed and nervous on her first day. I trained her myself. She reminded me of a younger me, eager, careful, a little too hard on herself. She became more than a colleague. She became the little sister I never had. We'd grab lunch at the cafeteria, swap stories about difficult patients, and on Friday evenings, she'd drag me to this little wine bar on Peachtree Street, where we'd decompress after 60-hour weeks. Maya was the one person at work who saw through my smile, Remember that. It matters later. But I was lonely. 30 years old, living in a nice one-bedroom in Midtown, coming home to silence every night. My friends were getting married, having babies, posting family photos on Thanksgiving. And I kept looking at that empty chair across my dinner table, thinking about my mama and daddy on that porch in Savannah, thinking maybe I'd never find what they had. Then I met Dominic. It was a Saturday evening in late October at a charity gala in Buckhead, the kind of event where the chandeliers cost more than my car and everyone smelled like expensive cologne and old money. I was there because Grady Memorial had a table. I wore a navy blue dress I'd spent 2 weeks overtime paying for, and I still felt underdressed. He found me standing by the bar pretending I knew what to do with a glass of Merlot. Tall, 6'2", skin like dark honey, smile that could melt steel. He was wearing a charcoal suit that fit him like it was stitched onto his body, and when he introduced himself, his voice was low and warm like a late-night radio host.
Dominic Hale,
he said, extending his hand.
And you are the most beautiful woman in this room who clearly doesn't want to be here.
I laughed, actually laughed, and something inside my chest, something that had been locked tight since Mama died, cracked open just a little. He was a criminal defense attorney, partner at Hale and Associates, founded by his father, retired Judge Roland Hale. He told me about his cases like they were bedtime stories, dramatic, funny, full of plot twists. He asked about pharmacy, like it was the most fascinating subject on earth. He remembered every detail I told him. My favorite flower gardenias like Mama used to grow. My favorite meal shrimp and grits. The name of my childhood dog, Biscuit. He remembered everything. And at the time, I thought that meant he cared. I didn't understand yet that some people memorize you, not because they love you, but because they're building a cage and they need to know exactly what bait to use. We dated for 14 months. 14 months of flowers every Friday, handwritten notes on my windshield, weekend trips to Napa Valley, Hilton Head, Asheville. He cooked for me every Sunday jerk, chicken, mac and cheese, collard greens, while Anita Baker played on the speakers. He met Daddy in Savannah, shook his hand with both of his, looked him in the eye, called him Sir. Daddy liked him. Daddy trusted him. That meant everything to me. Dominic proposed on a dock at Lake Lanier at sunset, down on one knee with a 2-carat ring.
Naomi Elise Carter, I want to spend every morning for the rest of my life waking up next to you.
I said yes before he finished the sentence. We married at Piedmont Park. 200 guests, white roses everywhere. Daddy walked me down the aisle crying so hard that Renata's empty chair in the front row almost didn't sting. Almost. On our wedding night after everyone had gone, and it was just us in the honeymoon suite at the St. Regis, Dominic pulled me close and whispered,
You're mine now, for real.
I laughed, kissed his cheek, thought it was romantic. But something in his voice wasn't laughing. Something behind his eyes was dead serious. And somewhere deep in my gut, in a place I didn't have the courage to visit yet, a small, quiet alarm went off. I ignored it. That would become the most expensive habit of my life. The first 2 years of our marriage were the kind of life I used to cut out of magazines and tape to my dorm room wall. We bought a house on Peachtree Hills Drive, 3,200 square feet, red brick wraparound porch, a magnolia tree in the front yard that bloomed every spring like it was showing off. I planted gardenias along the side fence because they reminded me of Mama. Dominic built a fire pit in the back where we'd sit on Saturday nights, him with his bourbon, me with my wine talking until the mosquitoes chased us inside. He was attentive, present. He'd text me at lunch just to say he was thinking about me. He'd show up at Grady with takeout on nights I worked late. He left sticky notes around the house on the bathroom mirror inside my lunch bag on the steering wheel.
You're my everything. Can't wait to come home to you. Lucky man right here.
I saved every one of those notes in a shoebox under our bed. Isn't that something I kept the evidence of a lie like it was treasure? On Sundays, we'd go to New Hope Community Church. Pastor Calvin Reed had been leading that congregation for 20 years. Big man, deep voice, the kind of preacher who could make you cry and laugh in the same sentence. Dominic was charming at church, shook every hand, remembered every name. The older women loved him. Sister Mabel told me every Sunday, "Naomi, you got yourself a good one. Hold on to that man." I held on, tight, too tight. And I didn't notice when the grip started going the other direction. It began small. So small I almost feel foolish telling you about it. But that's how it works. That's the thing nobody tells you. It doesn't start with a fist. It starts with a comment, a tone, a look that lasts half a second too long. Year 2, Dominic started managing our finances.
Babe, it makes more sense if we consolidate. I'll handle the bills, the investments, everything.
He said it like he was suggesting a new restaurant. I made $85,000 a year. He made over $200,000. It seemed logical. So I agreed. My paycheck started going into a joint account. His name first, his login, his passwords. Within 6 months, I didn't know how much money we had. I'd ask and he'd say,
"We're fine, babe. Don't worry about it."
and I stopped asking. Because I trusted him. Because that's what wives do, right? If only I had kept my own account, but hindsight is a luxury survivors can't afford. Then came Vivian. Dominic's mother was 62, 5'4", and carried herself like a woman who had never been told no. Retired school teacher, always correcting grammar, always rearranging how you'd set the table because
that's not how the Hales do it, dear.
She visited every other weekend, and every visit felt like an inspection.
Naomi, sweetie, have you gained weight? You know Dominic's first girlfriend was a size 4. Not that it matters.
She'd smile when she said things like that. Sweet as pie on the surface, razor blade underneath. Wait, first girlfriend I'd asked Dominic early on if he'd had serious relationships before. He told me no, looked me dead in the eye and said,
"Nothing worth mentioning. You're my first real love, Naomi."
But the way Vivian said it casually like she'd forgotten to keep a secret, the way she compared me to some phantom woman stuck in my throat like a bone. I filed it away. Told myself it didn't matter. But some things don't need to matter right away. They just need to sit quietly in the back of your mind until the day everything clicks into place. And trust me, that day was coming. One Sunday after church, Vivian made dinner at her home in Druid Hills. Halfway through pot roast, I mentioned wanting to start trying for a baby. I was 32. My doctor said sooner was better. Dominic's fork stopped midair.
"Not yet. My career is at a critical stage."
Vivian nodded.
He's right, dear. A baby would slow you both down. Dominic's on track to become the youngest managing partner in the firm's history. You wouldn't want to derail that. Besides, Naomi, not everyone is meant to be a mother young. Your own mother worked herself to death at that hospital. You wouldn't want to repeat that pattern, would you? En sanimoikyas amart nair.
The room went still. She'd invoked my dead mama at her dinner table like it was small talk. Dominic said nothing, not one word in my defense. I looked at my husband. I looked at his mother. A decision about my body had just been made by 2 people who didn't live inside it. But I smiled. I ate my pot roast. Because Carter women bury things. If only I had heard what they were really saying, that his ambitions would always outweigh my needs, and his mother would always hold the gavel. Then came the Christmas party. December, year 3. Hale and Associates rented a ballroom at the Intercontinental Buckhead. 200 people. Open bar. Jazz quartet in the corner. I wore a burgundy dress and felt beautiful for the first time in months. I reached for my wine glass and accidentally knocked Dominic's scotch onto his sleeve. A small splash, maybe a tablespoon on a dark suit. Dominic looked down at his sleeve, looked at me, smiled. But his eyes didn't smile. His eyes went somewhere cold and empty, a place I'd never seen before.
"Clumsy girl,"
he said, and the group laughed. On the drive home, silence for 17 minutes. I counted. Then he reached across the console and grabbed my wrist, squeezed, twisted, until I gasped.
"Do you know how embarrassing that was? In front of my partners, in front of people who matter."
Dominic, it was an accident.
"Don't.
He squeezed harder. I felt bones grinding.
Don't make excuses. Just do better."
He let go in the driveway. By morning, my wrist was a ring of purple and blue. He brought breakfast in bed. Pancakes, strawberries, a single gardenia in a glass vase.
Baby, I'm sorry about last night.
He said, eyes wet.
Work stress the pressure. I would never hurt you. You know that, right?
He kissed my bruised wrist, gently, like it was precious. And I wanted to believe him so badly that I did, because the alternative that the man I married could hurt me on purpose was a truth I wasn't ready to carry. I told Maya I bumped it on a cabinet. She looked at the bruise, looked at me.
Naomi, if a man grabs you like that, once he'll do it again. That's not stress. That's a preview.
I told her she was wrong.
I'm here when you're ready to tell me the truth.
She didn't argue, just said that. I went to church that Wednesday, sat in the empty sanctuary crying. Pastor Reed found me. I didn't mention the wrist, just said marriage was harder than expected. Every marriage has storms, Naomi. That's what the covenant is for. You pray through the storm. You don't run from it. I nodded, wiped my tears, drove home to the man who squeezed my wrist until it bruised and then kissed it like a prayer. That bruise faded in 10 days. But what Dominic taught me that night never faded, the lesson that his image mattered more than my body. I just didn't understand what it really meant. Not yet, because the worst was coming, and it was going to make a bruised wrist feel like mercy. After the Christmas party, things changed. Not all at once. More like watching the tide come in, each wave a little higher, creeping further up the sand, until you realize you're standing in water and you can't remember when the ground disappeared. The wrist was just the beginning. By mid-year, 3 Dominic had stopped pretending. The violence wasn't about anger anymore. It was about architecture. He was building a system, and I was the raw material he was shaping. I learned to read the weight of his footsteps on the hardwood. Heavy and slow meant bourbon at the office. Light and fast meant a good day. But silence, no greeting. No footsteps toward the kitchen meant I had about 45 seconds to figure out what I'd done wrong, or what he'd decided I'd done wrong, because the reasons stopped mattering. He shoved me into the hallway wall for leaving a dish in the sink, slapped me for answering my phone during dinner, pushed my face into the kitchen counter because I'd looked at him the wrong way. And then he'd straighten his shirt, adjust his cufflinks, and say the word that still makes my skin crawl.
Discipline.
One Tuesday night in March year 4, he came home at 9:15. I'd made baked chicken. He didn't eat. He sat in the living room in the dark, just sitting there. Dominic, you okay? No answer. Baby, your dinner is.
Sit down.
I sat. The room was so quiet I could hear the refrigerator humming.
Do you love me, Naomi?
Of course I love you.
Then why did I see you smiling at that pharmacist today, the new one, the male one?
There was no new male pharmacist. There hadn't been a new hire in 4 months. He was inventing a reason, testing me.
Stand up.
I stood.
Turn around.
I turned, my back to him, every nerve screaming. His hand gathered my hair at the base of my skull, pulled my head back slowly until I was looking at the ceiling, his lips at my ear, voice calm as Sunday morning.
I see everything, Naomi. Everything. Don't ever forget that.
Then he let go, patted my shoulder like a coworker who'd done good work, walked to the kitchen and watched SportsCenter like nothing happened. That night I understood. This wasn't anger. This wasn't stress. This was pleasure. The fear in my eyes was his favorite thing in the world. But before the worst night came, he did something that cut deeper than any fist. My mama's bracelet, a thin silver bracelet with a gardenia charm Daddy gave her on their 10th anniversary. She wore it every day until she died. I'd worn it every day since I was 16, 18 years, the last physical connection I had to her. One evening, I forgot to take the chicken out of the freezer. That was the crime. Frozen chicken. He grabbed the bracelet off my wrist so fast the clasp cut my skin, walked to the back porch, and threw it into the yard, into the dark, into the mud.
That cheap thing. Your mama wasn't exactly known for her taste, just like she wasn't known for raising daughters who could manage a simple household.
Then he leaned close and his voice dropped to that calm instructional tone that haunts my dreams to this day.
This is discipline, Naomi. Somebody had to teach you how to be a proper wife because clearly your mama never got the chance.
I spent 2 hours on my hands and knees in the rain searching through mud, found the bracelet near the fence, clasp broken, gardenia charm bent. I sat on the wet ground holding it to my chest, crying so hard I couldn't see. Dominic watched from the kitchen window. I could see his silhouette. He watched me crawl in the mud for his entertainment. And he didn't come outside once. The next morning, he woke up like a different person, made me breakfast, ran me a bath, sat on the edge of the tub and held my hand while the warm water eased the ache in my body.
I went too far, baby,
he said, voice trembling.
You know I'd never really hurt you, right? I just love you too much. Sometimes I lose control because I'm so terrified of losing you.
And there it was, the cycle. The punch, then the prayer, the bruise, then the breakfast. Every time he broke me, he'd rebuild me just enough to keep me standing, just enough to keep me staying. It was genius, really. Cruel, calculated genius. He didn't want to destroy me. He wanted to own me. And you can't own something that's been completely shattered. After that night, something cracked inside me. Not broke, cracked. Like a windshield after a rock hits it. You can still see through it, but you know one more impact and the whole thing shatters. The violence kept escalating. Year 5. Shoves became punches. Punches became kicks. He learned where to hit stomach, back, ribs, thighs, places clothes could cover. He was a lawyer. He understood evidence. Always careful. I wore long sleeves in 95-degree Atlanta summers, concealer thick as paint. Smiled so hard my jaw ached. Maya stopped asking. She just started leaving domestic violence hotline brochures in my locker. I'd throw them away. She'd leave new ones. Every week. That girl refused to give up on me even when I'd given up on myself. Then came the night, a Thursday in September, year 6. 30 minutes late, traffic on I-85, a pileup near the Brookwood split. I texted Dominic twice. No response. The house was dark. One light the kitchen. He was standing there, arms crossed, still in his suit.
You're late.
There was an accident on the highway. He moved so fast I didn't see the first punch. It caught me below my left breast. The second landed in the same spot. The third, I heard it. A crack that came from inside my own body. 2 ribs. Broken. I knew the sound. I was a pharmacist in a trauma hospital. I'd seen 1,000 x-rays, and now I could feel mine jagged edges grinding every time I tried to breathe. I dropped to the kitchen floor, couldn't inhale. The pain was white, blinding, like boiling water inside my chest. Dominic stood over me, straightened his tie, checked his watch.
Don't be dramatic. You'll be fine by morning. Now get up and clean this kitchen.
He stepped over me, walked upstairs, shower turned on. I lay on that floor for 7 hours, breathing in tiny sips because anything deeper felt like being stabbed. 7 hours of staring at the ceiling, biting through my bottom lip to keep from screaming. Around 3 a.m, I turned my head. On the refrigerator, an old photograph held by a magnet from Daddy's plumbing company. Me and Renata, 15 years old, grinning, arms around each other. Back when nobody had taught me that love could break your bones. At 5:47, Dominic's alarm went off. Shower, coffee, front door, car pulling away. I crawled, hands and knees, down the hallway to the bedroom closet. Behind winter coats under old sweaters, a phone. A prepaid phone I'd bought 2 years ago and never told Dominic about. I don't know why I'd kept it. Instinct. The part of my brain that knew before I did that one day I'd need a lifeline he couldn't trace. I dialed a number I'd saved 10 years ago but never called. It rang once, twice, 3 times.
Naomi, oh my God, Naomi, is that you?
I hadn't heard her voice in 10 years, and the first words out of my mouth weren't, "I miss you," or "Where have you been?" They were, "Renata, he broke my ribs, I need help." 3 seconds of silence. Then my cousin said 5 words in a voice I'd never heard from her, cold, steady, like a blade being drawn.
I'm coming, don't tell him.
Renata arrived in Atlanta 6 hours after my call. She didn't knock on the front door. She texted the prepaid phone.
Gray Honda, end of your block. Come when it's safe.
I waited until Dominic left for the office at 8:30. Then I pulled on a hoodie, wrapped my ribs with an ace bandage I'd taken from the hospital supply months ago, pharmacist instincts, and walked 3 houses down to where a gray Honda Civic sat idling under a crepe myrtle tree. The woman behind the wheel was not the Renata I remembered. The cousin who used to braid my hair on the porch in Savannah was gone. This Renata had short-cropped hair, sharp cheekbones carved by years of something I couldn't name yet, and eyes that scanned every mirror, every window, every parked car on the street before she even looked at me. I opened the passenger door and lowered myself in, wincing as my ribs screamed against the seatbelt. Renata watched me move. She didn't gasp, didn't cry. Her jaw tightened once, just once, and then she pulled away from the curb without a word. We drove to a coffee shop in East Atlanta Village far enough from Buckhead that nobody from Dominic's world would see us. She ordered 2 black coffees and sat across from me in a corner booth with her back to the wall. Old habit. FBI habit.
Show me.
She said. I lifted my hoodie. The left side of my torso was a canvas of purple and black swollen where the ribs had fractured. Renata's hand trembled just for a second before she steadied it against the table.
How long?
She asked. Almost 4 years.
How bad?
I told her. Everything. The wrist, the shoves, the slaps, the bracelet in the mud, the hair pulling, the cold calculated control, the discipline. I told her about the financial lockout, about Vivian's inspections, about the way Dominic could make me feel crazy for noticing what was right in front of my face. When I finished, Renata was quiet for a long time. Then she said,
I need to tell you something about why I disappeared.
I waited.
10 years ago, I was working a domestic violence case in D.C. A woman named Angela Price, 29, 2 kids. Her husband was a lobbyist, connected, wealthy, untouchable. She came to me for help. I promised I'd protect her.
Renata's voice cracked.
He killed her, Naomi, 3 days before we could move her to safety, beat her to death while their children slept upstairs.
She pressed her palms flat on the table.
I couldn't save her. I had the badge, the training, and I couldn't save her. Something broke inside me. I left the bureau. PTSD, nightmares for 2 years. When I came out the other side, I couldn't go back, but I couldn't stop fighting either.
So what did you do?
I became a private investigator, specializing in domestic violence cases. I've spent the last 8 years helping women escape men exactly like your husband, building cases, gathering evidence, making sure the system can't look away.
She reached across the table and grabbed my hand.
I spent 10 years helping strangers, Naomi. I'm not letting my own baby cousin stay trapped in that house.
My eyes burned. Why didn't you call? Why didn't you tell us where you were?
Because I was ashamed. I was supposed to be the strong one, the FBI agent, the one who protects people. And I couldn't protect Angela. I couldn't face Daddy Ernest, couldn't face you. I kept telling myself I'd call when I was better, when I'd fixed myself. But better kept moving further away.
Her eyes glistened.
I'm sorry, Naomi. I'm so sorry I wasn't here.
I squeezed her hand. You're here now. She wiped her eyes once quick, like she was angry at herself for crying. Then the softness disappeared, and the investigator came back.
Listen to me carefully. Your husband is a criminal defense attorney. He knows the system better than most cops do. If you just call the police, he will lawyer up within the hour. He will have character witnesses lined up by morning. He will paint you as an unstable wife having a breakdown, and his mother will back every word. You'll get a protective order that he'll find a way around, and within 6 months, you'll either be back in that house or in the ground.
I felt my chest tighten. So what do I do?
We don't just call the cops. We build a case so airtight that even a hail can't wiggle out of it. Evidence, documentation, patterns. We need enough to take him down criminally, not just divorce him.
She pulled out a small notebook and started writing. Dates, injuries, witnesses, a timeline of everything I'd told her.
First, you go to work today like nothing happened. Use your own medical knowledge to manage the pain. Ibuprofen, compression, shallow breathing. Can you do that?
I nodded. I'd been doing it for years.
Second, do not let him know you called me. As far as he knows, Renata Morrison doesn't exist anymore.
I went to work that morning with 2 broken ribs and a smile painted on my face. Every step felt like a knife between my lungs. Every breath was a negotiation with my own body. But I showed up. I filled prescriptions. I checked dosages. I smiled at patients. Maya caught me wincing behind the pharmacy counter at noon. She didn't say a word, just walked over, stood beside me, and whispered.
Whatever happened, whenever you're ready, I'm here.
This time, I didn't push her away. Not yet, but soon. That afternoon, Dominic texted my regular phone.
Dinner tonight I'll cook. Miss you, baby.
With a heart emoji. Like we were newlyweds. Like he hadn't broken my ribs 14 hours ago. Like the sound of my bones cracking wasn't still echoing off the kitchen walls. I texted back. Sounds perfect, can't wait. And I meant it, but not the way he thought. What I didn't know yet was that Dominic had installed a tracking app on my regular phone 3 months earlier. Every location, every minute, a little blue dot following me across the city like a digital leash. Renata would discover it later that week and tell me to leave the regular phone at home whenever we met.
He's tracking you like a case file. Every move, every stop. This man doesn't just want to control you, he wants to own the map of your life.
She also told me to start checking his phone if I ever got the chance.
Abusers who control this much always have secrets of their own. Nobody builds walls this high unless they're hiding something behind them.
That evening, while Dominic hummed Al Green in the kitchen and seasoned lamb chops like a man without a single sin, I excused myself to the bathroom and checked the prepaid phone. Renata had sent one message.
Found something. Need to verify. Meet tomorrow, same spot.
I didn't know what she'd found. Not yet. But the tone of that message, the urgency underneath the calm, told me it was something big. 2 days later, sitting across from Renata in that same corner booth, I would learn the truth that shattered every remaining illusion I had about the man I married. I wasn't his first. I wasn't even close. But I'll get to that. First, you need to understand what happened when I went home. That night, looked Dominic in the eye over lamb chops and roasted asparagus, and realized for the first time that I was eating dinner with a man I didn't know at all. A man who had looked me in the face on our very first date and told me I was his first real love. He lied about everything, and the proof was about to walk out of the shadows with scars on her face and a story that sounded exactly like mine. 2 days after our first meeting, I sat across from Renata in the same corner booth in East Atlanta Village. She had a manila folder on the table between us. Thick, dog-eared. The kind of folder that holds the weight of someone's ruined life.
Before I open this,
She said.
I need you to prepare yourself. What I found changes everything, and it's going to hurt.
I nodded. Like anything could hurt more than broken ribs and a bracelet in the mud. I was wrong. Renata opened the folder. Court documents, police reports, medical records, and a photograph of a woman I'd never seen before. Light brown skin, high cheekbones. Beautiful except for the scar running from her left temple to her jawline.
Her name is Camille Shaw.
Renata said.
8 years ago, she was Camille Hale, Dominic's first wife.
The coffee shop went silent. Or maybe it didn't. Maybe the world just stopped spinning for a second while every lie my husband had ever told me rearranged itself into something unrecognizable. That's impossible. He told me he'd never been married. He looked me in the eye and...
He lied. They were married for 2 years. The divorce file was sealed by court order, and the man who sealed it was retired Judge Roland Hale, his father.
Renata laid out the documents one by one. Marriage certificate, dated 10 years ago. Fulton County. Camille Shaw, age 24, married Dominic Xavier Hale, age 28. Divorce decree, filed 23 months later. Grounds, irreconcilable differences. No mention of abuse. No mention of violence. Clean. Sterile. Like it had been scrubbed.
But it wasn't irreconcilable differences, it was this.
She slid the medical records across the table. I read them with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. Fractured jaw. Orbital fracture right eye socket, 3 broken ribs, contusions on the torso, arms, and thighs in varying stages of healing. 3 broken ribs. The same injury, the same man, the same word he probably used while he did it.
Discipline.
Camille filed a police report, but it was buried. Roland Hale made a phone call. The report was reclassified. The case was dropped. Camille was offered $75,000 and an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement. She couldn't talk about the marriage, the abuse, or the Hale family, ever. In exchange, she got to walk away alive.
And she took it.
She was 26 with a shattered face and no money. Her abuser's father was a sitting judge. What would you have done?
I couldn't answer because I knew. I knew exactly what I would have done. I would have signed. I would have taken the money and disappeared, just like Camille did. Where is she now?
Macon, living in a shelter for domestic violence survivors. She never fully recovered, lost her teaching career, couldn't hold jobs because of the PTSD and the anxiety. She's been surviving, Naomi, not living, surviving.
I closed my eyes. Behind them, I saw Dominic on our first date. That warm smile, that voice like a late-night radio host.
You were my first real love, Naomi.
He'd said it while looking me in the eyes, while Camille Shaw was already living with scars on her face that he had put there. I need to meet her.
I was hoping you'd say that. She's scared. Terrified, actually. The NDA, the Hale name, she's been looking over her shoulder for 8 years. But when I told her there was another woman that he was doing it again...
Renata paused.
She cried for 40 minutes straight, then she said yes.
But that meeting would have to wait, because that same night, Dominic gave me a reason to understand exactly how deep his sickness ran. I came home at 6:45. Dominic's car was already in the driveway, which was unusual. He rarely beat me home. I left my regular phone on the passenger seat with the GPS pinging away, walked inside, and found him in the living room watching the evening news. On the screen, I froze. Dominic was on the news, a recorded segment from earlier that day, standing behind a podium at the Fulton County Courthouse speaking at a press conference for the firm's new pro bono initiative.
Domestic violence is a crisis that touches every community. Hale and Associates is proud to announce our commitment to providing free legal services to survivors of intimate partner violence.
I stood in the doorway, 2 broken ribs still aching under my blouse, and watched the man who put them there lecture Atlanta about protecting women. Dominic noticed me watching. He smiled.
Pretty good, right? The managing partners loved it. Great optics for the firm.
Great optics. That's what my suffering was. A press conference, a tax write-off. Great optics. Something must have shone on my face, a flicker, a shadow, something I couldn't hide fast enough because his smile vanished.
What, you got something to say?
No, it's ironic, don't you think? The room temperature dropped 10 degrees.
Ironic?
He stood up, slow.
What exactly is ironic, Naomi?
I should have stopped. Every survival instinct I had was screaming at me to smile, to backtrack, to say nothing. Baby, I'm proud of you. But the folder in Renata's coffee shop had cracked something open, and the words came out before I could catch them. You're talking about protecting women, and last Thursday you broke my ribs. Silence. His nostrils flared. His eyes went to that cold, empty place I feared more than his fists. Then he laughed, short, hard, walked toward me until his face was 6 inches from mine.
You think anyone would believe you over me? I'm a Hale. You're nobody from Savannah with a dead mama and a missing cousin.
Every word landed like a slap. Dead mama, missing cousin, nobody. He'd taken the 3 deepest wounds of my life and used them as a weapon in one sentence.
Go ahead. Call the cops. I defend guys like them. I drink scotch with the DA every Friday. Who do you think they're gonna believe? A Hale or a girl from Savannah who can't even keep a kitchen clean?
He grabbed my chin, tilted my face up, forced me to look at him.
This conversation is over. Go upstairs. Take a bath. And when you come back down, you better have that attitude fixed.
I went upstairs, took a bath, sat in the water, staring at the tile wall, ribs pulsing with every heartbeat, replaying his words. Nobody from Savannah with a dead mama and a missing cousin. But my cousin wasn't missing anymore. She was 6 miles away with a folder full of evidence and a decade of fury. Camille Shaw was waiting in a small room at the Macon Family Crisis Center, thin, quiet. The scar on her face faded, but still visible, a permanent signature from the man we'd both married. When she saw me, her eyes filled. Not sadness, relief. He told you that you were his first, didn't he? I nodded. He told me the same thing. 2 hours. She told me everything, the charm, the control, the escalation, the exact same words.
Discipline. You're nothing without me. Nobody would believe you.
Like a script. Like we were different actresses cast in the same nightmare. Everything I believed was a lie. He didn't love me. He didn't love Camille. He loved control. We were practice dummies in a pattern he'd perfected. I drove back to Atlanta in silence. No radio, no phone. Just the highway and the sound of everything I'd believed shattering against the windshield. Renata had already said the name of the person who would help us bring the Hale family down. A judge. One who had been waiting 8 years for exactly this moment. The drive back from Macon took 90 minutes. I didn't turn on the radio, didn't check my phone. Just drove with both hands on the wheel, staring at the highway through a windshield blurred by tears. I couldn't stop and didn't try to. Camille's face. That scar. The way she said,
Discipline.
Like the word tasted like blood. And then somewhere between Macon and the I-75 merge south of Atlanta, something inside me shifted. Not broke, not cracked. Shifted. Like a gear catching after years of grinding in the wrong direction. Something inside me went quiet. Not sad quiet, not scared quiet, dangerous quiet. I pulled over at a rest stop near Locust Grove, sat in the car, wiped my face, and I made a decision that I felt in my bones, in my broken ribs, in every bruise that had ever mapped my skin. I was done being his lesson. I was going to become his. That night, I walked into our house on Peachtree Hills and smiled at Dominic like nothing had happened. He was on the couch reading legal briefs, bourbon in hand. He looked up and said,
There she is. Where have you been all day?
Running errands, got my nails done. I held up my hands to show him. I'd actually stopped at a salon in Stockbridge on the way back to make the lie real. Every detail mattered now.
That's my girl.
Your girl, your property, your punching bag, not for much longer. I went to bed that night beside a man I now understood was a monster with a pattern, a predator with a system. And I slept better than I had in years. Because for the first time, I wasn't waiting for the next blow. I was planning the last one. The next morning, I met Renata at a new location, a public library in Decatur, where the security cameras would show we were just 2 women reading magazines if anyone ever checked. She'd done more digging overnight.
Judge Harold Ewing,
She said, sliding a printed article across the table.
Senior Judge, Fulton County Superior Court, 28 years on the bench. He was Roland Hale's closest friend. Morehouse together, clerked together. Roland mentored him.
So he's on their side.
He was, until Roland sealed Camille's case. Ewing confronted him. Roland said, "Mind your business." Ewing was furious his best friend had used the bench to cover a felony. They haven't spoken since.
Renata leaned forward.
He's been waiting 8 years for evidence strong enough to hold the Hales accountable. I've reached out. He's willing to ensure the case lands in the right courtroom. Not as a favor, as justice.
The plan was taking shape, but we needed more. We needed a lawyer. Renata connected me with attorney Denise Wynn, a civil rights lawyer in Midtown specializing in domestic violence prosecution. 51 natural hair in a low bun and a voice that could strip paint off a wall. Honey, your husband didn't just abuse you. He ran a system. Same pattern with Camille. Father covering it up. This isn't a divorce case. This is a criminal conspiracy. The word conspiracy hit different. It meant this wasn't just Dominic. It was the whole machine, Dominic, Vivian, Roland, a family that recycled wives and buried the evidence. But the plan needed one more thing to become bulletproof documentation from inside the house. Irrefutable time-stamped video evidence of the abuse as it happened.
We're going to need hidden cameras.
I flinched. In my own house.
In your own house, living room, kitchen, bedroom, anywhere he might escalate. Cloud storage he can't access, can't delete, can't even know exists.
3 days later, while Dominic was at the firm, Renata came to the house. She installed 4 cameras, each one smaller than a shirt button. one in the living room smoke detector, one in the kitchen clock, one in the bedroom bookshelf, one in the hallway light fixture, all connected to an encrypted cloud account under a name Dominic would never think to search. That same week, 2 more things happened that hardened my resolve. The first, Pastor Calvin Reed came to visit our house. Dominic had invited him for dinner, a performance, of course, to show off the happy Christian couple. But that evening, Dominic had been drinking since 4 in the afternoon. By the time Pastor Reed arrived at 7, Dominic was 3 bourbons deep and loose-lipped. During dinner, I reached for the salt at the wrong moment, and my sleeve rode up, exposing the edge of a bruise on my forearm. I pulled it down fast, but Pastor Reed saw it. His eyes lingered on my arm, then moved to Dominic, then back to me. He didn't say anything, but something changed in his expression, a question forming behind his eyes that he wasn't ready to ask yet. After dinner, while I was washing dishes, Dominic came into the kitchen and grabbed my arm, the bruised one, in full view of the hallway where Pastor Reed was putting on his coat.
You almost burned the roast. Pay attention next time.
I saw Pastor Reed freeze in the hallway mirror's reflection. He saw the grip. He saw my face. He saw me flinch. And for the first time, the man who'd told me to pray through the storm looked like he'd just watched lightning strike someone he was supposed to protect. He left without saying a word, but 3 days later he called me, not Dominic, me. Naomi, I need to ask you something, and I need you to tell me the truth. Is Dominic hurting you? I paused. The old Naomi would have lied, would have said everything was fine. But I wasn't the old Naomi anymore. Yes, he's been hurting me for years. Lord, forgive me. I told you to pray through it. I told you to stay. His voice broke. Naomi, I am so sorry. What can I do? When the time comes, I'm going to need you to tell the truth about what you saw. Can you do that? Yes, whatever you need. I'll testify if I have to. The second thing that happened, I finally told Maya everything. We sat in her car in the Grady Memorial parking deck after our shift, and I laid it all out. The abuse, the broken ribs, the hidden cameras. Camille Renata, the plan. Maya listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was gripping the steering wheel so hard her knuckles had gone white.
What do you need from me?
My medical records, the ones Dr. Okafor documented under the confidential code. I need copies, and I need you to keep them somewhere Dominic can't reach.
Done. What else?
I need you to keep being my friend, even when this gets ugly.
Girl, I've been leaving brochures in your locker for 2 years waiting for this moment. I'm not going anywhere.
I drove home that night with something I hadn't felt in 6 years. Hope. Not the fragile kind that shatters when he raises his voice. The steel kind, forged in broken ribs and kitchen floors and mud-soaked searches for a dead mama's bracelet. The plan was set. The cameras were recording. The allies were in place. Renata Denise Judge Ewing, Dr. Okafor Maya Pastor Reed, and somewhere in Macon Camille Shaw, gathering her courage to break an 8-year silence. All I needed was to go back into that house, look my abuser in the eye, and let him believe he'd already won. I smiled at Dominic across the dinner table that night. He thought I was finally being a good wife. He had no idea I was counting down his last days of freedom. 3 weeks. That's how long I played the role of Dominic Hale's perfect wife while secretly building the case that would destroy him. I cooked every meal from scratch, kept the house immaculate, laughed at his jokes, pressed his shirts the way Vivian taught me. I even organized a dinner party for his firm partners, braised short ribs, rosemary potatoes, walnut pear salad. Dominic pulled me into the kitchen that night, kissed my forehead.
See, this is the Naomi I married. I knew she was in there somewhere.
I smiled. Let him believe his discipline had finally worked, that I'd been broken into the shape he wanted. Behind that smile, 4 cameras were recording everything. Every night after Dominic fell asleep, I'd check the cloud footage on my prepaid phone in the bathroom with the faucet running to cover any sound. The cameras were capturing gold. Him shoving me against the refrigerator when I asked about a credit card charge. Him on the phone with Tanya Brooks at 11 at night whispering,
Miss you, baby.
while I pretended to sleep 10 feet away, him screaming at me for folding his socks the wrong way, throwing a shoe at my head that missed by 2 inches and dented the bedroom wall. But the footage that changed everything came on a Tuesday evening. Dominic had invited Vivian over for dinner. I served pot roast, her favorite, and excused myself to take a shower, leaving them alone in the living room. I didn't need to be there. The kitchen camera had a clear angle on the couch where they sat. That night, I watched the footage with shaking hands. Vivian and Dominic, glasses of wine in hand, talking about me like I was livestock.
She's been behaving beautifully lately. Whatever you did, it worked.
She just needed reminding, same as Camille. They push you correct, they fall in line.
Same as Camille, on camera, in his own voice, comparing his abuse of 2 wives like it was a training method.
Have you moved the accounts yet?
Almost. I've shifted $60,000 into the offshore trust. She doesn't even check the statements anymore. Another 40 and we'll have enough to...
Keep your voice down. The walls in this house aren't thick, Dominic.
She's in the shower. She can't hear anything. Besides, even if she did, what's she going to do? She doesn't have a dime to her name that I haven't allowed her to have. You leave when I say you can leave. You work because I allow it. Everything you have is because I let you have it.
Just like your father always said. Control the money, control the woman.
I sat on the bathroom floor with the phone pressed against my chest and let the tears come. Not from sadness, from fury, from the realization that this wasn't just a violent husband, this was a family enterprise. Dominic and Vivian had been conspiring, hiding money, planning my financial destruction, discussing my abuse like it was household management. And now I had it on video. I sent the footage to Renata that night. She called me back in 4 minutes.
Naomi, this is it. This is the conspiracy charge. Financial fraud, domestic violence, and obstruction, all in one recording. Denise is going to lose her mind when she sees this.
For the first time in weeks, I almost laughed. Then the plan nearly fell apart. The following Thursday, I came home from work and found Dominic in the bedroom, standing by my dresser, holding a business card. Denise Wynn, attorney at law, civil rights and domestic violence advocacy. My blood went cold. I'd kept that card in the inside pocket of my winter coat, the coat hanging in the back of the closet, the coat I hadn't worn in months. He'd gone looking. He'd been searching through my things.
What is this?
He asked. His voice was quiet, the dangerous quiet. My mind raced. Every second of hesitation was a crack in my cover. I could see his jaw tightening, see the calculation behind his eyes. One wrong word and 6 weeks of preparation would collapse. It's from a woman at church. She came to Wednesday service asking for legal help with her ex-husband. Pastor Reed asked me to hold on to her card in case anyone in the congregation needed a referral. I put it in my coat pocket and forgot about it. Dominic stared at me. 5 seconds. 10. I could feel my pulse in my ears, feel sweat forming at the base of my spine, but I held his gaze. Didn't blink, didn't flinch. 6 years of living with a predator had taught me one thing: how to lie to one.
Pastor Reed asked you.
Call him if you want, he'll tell you. I was bluffing, but I knew Dominic's ego. Calling a pastor to verify his wife's story would mean admitting he didn't trust her, admitting she had a reason to seek a lawyer, admitting the control was slipping. His pride wouldn't allow it. He tossed the card on the dresser.
Get rid of it. I don't want some domestic violence lawyer's name in my house. Bad optics.
Bad optics. Again, always the image, never the truth. Of course, sorry, baby. He walked out. I waited until I heard the TV click on downstairs, then grabbed the bathroom counter to stop my hands from shaking. That was close. Too close. I texted Renata. He found Denise's card, handled it. We need to move faster.
Agreed. Denise says we're ready. Camille confirmed she'll break the NDA and testify. Dr. Okafor's medical records are secured. Maya has copies. Camera footage backed up in 3 locations. We file Monday.
4 days. I just had to hold it together for 4 more days. That Saturday, Dominic took me to a restaurant in Buckhead. He ordered wine that cost more than my weekly groceries. Across the candlelit table, he looked at me with the old smile, the one from the charity gala.
I've been hard on you, but it's because I see your potential. You could be great, Naomi. You just need guidance.
Guidance. He meant control. He meant ownership. He meant the fist and the apology and the cycle that never ends. I squeezed his hand and smiled. I know, baby. I appreciate everything you do for me.
To us? To the Hale legacy?
He raised his glass. I raised mine, clinked, sipped. To the Hale legacy. The legacy of sealed court records and broken faces and women crawling through mud. The legacy that was about to be unsealed, exposed, and burned to the ground. On Monday morning, while Dominic sat in his corner office at Hale & Associates reviewing case files and drinking espresso, attorney Denise Wynn walked into the Fulton County Clerk's office and filed 2 documents simultaneously, a criminal complaint and a petition for divorce. By noon, a judge had signed an emergency protective order. By 2 in the afternoon, I'd walked out of Grady Memorial with my bag packed, my medical records secured, and Maya holding my hand all the way to the car. By 3, I was in a domestic violence shelter on the south side of Atlanta, safe, hidden, free for the first time in 6 years. Dominic came home at 6:30 to an empty house, called my phone disconnected, called the hospital, Miss Carter is on indefinite leave, called Vivian, no answer because Vivian was watching 2 plainclothes detectives walk up her driveway. By 7:30, he was pacing the living room, bourbon in hand. But even then, standing in a house his wife had just fled, Dominic Hale wasn't scared. He was annoyed.
She'll come crawling back. They always do.
He had no idea that the cameras he didn't know about had just recorded him saying that too. The hearing was scheduled for a Thursday morning, 10 o'clock, Courtroom 4B, Fulton County Superior Court, the Honorable Judge Harold Ewing presiding. I arrived early with attorney Denise Wynn. We sat at the plaintiff's table, me in a simple black dress, no jewelry except Mama's bent silver bracelet on my wrist. I'd had it repaired. The gardenia charm was still slightly crooked. I wore it on purpose, a reminder of where I'd been and what I was about to do. The courtroom filled slowly. Maya sat in the 3rd row, clutching a folder of medical records. Pastor Calvin Reed sat beside her, wearing his Sunday suit on a Thursday, his face heavy with the weight of what he was about to say. Renata was in the back corner, invisible to anyone who wasn't looking, watching every door. And then Dominic walked in. $3,000 suit, silk tie. He moved through the courtroom like he owned it because in his mind he did. His lawyer, a silver-haired partner from a top Atlanta firm, walked beside him. Behind them, Vivian took the front row pearls straight back, a look of pure contempt aimed at me. 2 seats behind her, Tanya Brooks in a red dress like this was a date night.
This'll be over by lunch. She's got nothing.
Dominic leaned to his attorney loud enough for us to hear. Denise didn't flinch. She opened her briefcase and smiled. Judge Ewing entered. The room stood. He took his seat and adjusted his glasses, and I watched Dominic register the name on the bench, Ewing, his father's old friend. I saw the flicker of relief cross his face. He thought this was a gift, a familiar name, a safe judge. He had no idea. Dominic's lawyer presented first. The predictable narrative: Naomi was unstable, fabricating allegations. Mr. Hale was a respected attorney, a community pillar. There is simply no credible evidence of wrongdoing, the lawyer concluded. Judge Ewing nodded. Mrs. Carter's counsel may proceed. Denise stood, buttoned her blazer, picked up a remote. 4 words that split the courtroom in half. Your Honor, the footage. The screen flickered to life. Dominic shoving me into the refrigerator, timestamp in the corner, his voice clear as church bells.
Don't you ever question me about money again.
Another clip. A shoe thrown at my head, the thud against the wall. Another. My arm twisted. My gasp caught on audio so crisp you could hear the breath leave my body. Then the clip that broke everything open. Dominic and Vivian on the living room couch, wine glasses in hand.
She's been behaving beautifully lately. Whatever you did, it worked.
She just needed reminding, same as Camille. They push you correct, they fall in line.
Same as Camille, his own words, on his own couch, recorded by his own smoke detector. Then the money.
Almost. I've shifted $60,000 into the offshore trust. She doesn't even check the statements anymore.
Control the money, control the woman.
A conspiracy laid bare in their own living room, in their own voices. I watched Dominic's face. The transformation happened in stages, like a building collapsing floor by floor. Confusion, recognition. Then every shade of composure and arrogance draining from his face like someone pulled a plug. His hands trembled so violently his lawyer removed the pen from his grip. Sweat bloomed across his forehead, running into the collar of that $3,000 suit. That footage was obtained illegally. My client had no knowledge of surveillance in his home. Georgia is a one-party consent state counselor. Mrs. Carter was present during every recorded incident. The footage is admissible. Continue. Denise called Pastor Calvin Reed to the stand. He described what he'd witnessed Dominic grabbing my bruised arm at the dinner table, the fear on my face, the casual cruelty. I told her to stay. I told her to pray through it. I will carry that shame for the rest of my life. Then Denise called Dr. Adrienne Okafor, who presented 18 months of documented injuries under confidential medical codes, broken ribs, contusions, fractures in various stages of healing, a medical roadmap of systematic abuse. Then Denise looked toward the bench. The plaintiff calls one final witness, Camille Shaw. The courtroom doors opened, and the woman Dominic had buried the woman his father had silenced with $75,000, and a sealed file walked in with a scar on her face and the truth on her lips.
No, she signed an NDA. She can't.
An NDA obtained through coercion to conceal a felony is unenforceable, Mr. Hale. Sit down. Camille took the stand. Quietly, steadily, she told them everything. The same pattern, the same words.
Discipline. You're nothing without me.
The broken jaw, the shattered eye socket, $75,000 to disappear. Judge Roland Hale making a phone call that erased a police report. When she finished, the courtroom was silent. Vivian was chalk white, gripping the bench in front of her. Tanya Brooks was already edging toward the door, but a bailiff blocked her path. Dominic's lawyer tried one last play. Your Honor, my client categorically denies. Dominic stood up. His legs buckled. He had to grab the table to stay upright.
She's lying. They're all lying.
Judge Ewing removed his glasses, set them on the bench, looked directly at Dominic. Mr. Hale, this court has reviewed video evidence of repeated domestic violence, audio evidence of financial conspiracy, medical documentation spanning 18 months, testimony from a prior victim detailing identical abuse, and evidence that retired Judge Roland Hale used his position to obstruct justice. He paused. I am granting the emergency protective order, referring this case to the district attorney for criminal prosecution, ordering the state bar to investigate your license, and referring the sealed Shaw file to the Judicial Qualifications Commission regarding your father's conduct. The room erupted.
This is a setup. My son would never.
Mrs. Hale, sit down. You are also named in the conspiracy evidence. One more word and I will hold you in contempt and refer you for obstruction charges. Vivian's mouth closed. Tanya turned to Dominic, mascara streaking. You said she was stupid. You said she'd never fight back. Dominic didn't hear her. He was staring at me, eyes wild, sweat-soaked, shaking.
Naomi, please, I'm sorry. I can change. I'll get help. I love you, please.
I looked at him, really looked. You don't love me, Dominic. You loved owning me. I touched the crooked gardenia charm on my wrist. And that's over. I stood, didn't look back. Walked past Vivian, weeping past Tanya, who wouldn't meet my eyes past the gallery of attorneys and reporters who had just watched the Hale empire crumble. Renata was at the door. She didn't speak, just nodded. I nodded back. 2 officers approached Dominic with handcuffs. His legs gave out. They had to hold him up as they read his rights. The golden boy of Atlanta's legal scene half carried out of a courtroom in the same building where his father used to sit on the bench. I remembered his words.
You think anyone would believe you over me?
They did.
I'm a Hale.
Not anymore.
You're nobody from Savannah with a dead mama and a missing cousin.
My cousin came back, and she brought the truth with her. 8 months later, I'm sitting on the balcony of a 900-square-foot apartment in Decatur, Georgia. Small, chipped counter, bedroom window sticks when it rains, the most beautiful home I've ever lived in, because every square inch of it is mine. Morning air hits different when you're not afraid to breathe it. I drink coffee on this balcony every day, a ritual that belongs to me. No footsteps to decode, no silences to survive, no voice deciding whether today is a gardenia day or a broken rib day, just birdsong and the sound of a woman relearning how to exist without permission. I went back to Grady Memorial 3 months after the hearing. Maya was behind the counter like she'd been waiting the whole time. She saw me drop a bottle of amoxicillin, ran around the counter, and grabbed me for a full minute. Neither of us said a word. We didn't need to. Dr. Okafor stopped by my first day back. I documented those injuries hoping you'd one day use them. I'm proud of you, Naomi. I almost lost it right there between the antihistamines and the blood pressure monitors. Therapy started at the shelter and continued in Decatur. Dr. Keisha Williams specializes in trauma recovery locks down to her waist voice so calm it could talk a hurricane into a breeze. She taught me healing isn't linear. Some days I feel invincible. Some days the sound of dress shoes on hardwood sends me back to that kitchen floor. But the bad days are getting fewer. The nightmares are getting quieter. And the woman in the mirror is starting to look like someone I recognize. Renata moved to Atlanta, 12 minutes from my apartment. Dinner together every Thursday, haven't missed once. She's still doing PI work, still helping women, but with family beside her now. She and Daddy talk every Sunday morning. 10 years of silence healed, one conversation at a time. Daddy drove up from Savannah the week after the hearing, walked into the shelter, saw the bruises still fading on my arms, and this giant plumber sat on a folding chair and wept. Why didn't you tell me, baby girl? I know, Daddy. That's exactly why I couldn't tell you. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small box, a new clasp for Mama's bracelet, sterling silver, custom made by a jeweler in Savannah. He fastened it himself right over the spot where Dominic had broken it. Your Mama is so proud of you. I know it because I feel it every day. Pastor Calvin Reed came to the apartment with a casserole and an apology he'd rehearsed for weeks. He sat at my kitchen table, my kitchen, my table, and said, I failed you, Naomi. I told you to pray when I should have helped you pack. I will spend the rest of my ministry making sure no woman hears that advice again. I forgave him, not because what he said was okay, but because forgiveness isn't about the other person. It's about putting down a weight you were never meant to carry. He's kept his word. New Hope Community Church partners with the Atlanta Family Crisis Center now. Domestic violence resources in the lobby every Sunday. He preaches about it from the pulpit openly without shame. He says my name. I gave him permission. Camille Shaw called me 2 months after the hearing, crying but not like Macon. This was relief. I got a job, teaching second grade in Warner Robins. They looked at my resume and didn't see a victim. They saw a teacher. I cried with her. 2 women on opposite ends of a phone connected by the worst thing that happened to them, celebrating the first thing that went right. Now for the part you've been waiting for. Dominic Xavier Hale was convicted on 7 counts: aggravated battery, domestic violence, financial fraud, witness, intimidation, sentenced to 7 years in state prison. The state bar permanently revoked his license. The man who told me nobody would believe me over a Hale will spend the next 7 years in a cell, smaller than the closet where I hid my prepaid phone. Tanya Brooks was terminated from Hale and Associates, under investigation by the state bar. The woman who called me simple can't find a firm in Georgia willing to hire her. Vivian Hale pleaded no contest to obstruction, 18 months probation, a fine and no contact order. She lives alone in that big Druid Hills house now. No dinner parties, no inspections, no daughter-in-law to critique. Just silence and the echo of her own choices. Retired Judge Roland Hale is under review by the Judicial Qualifications Commission. The legacy Dominic toasted with expensive wine in ruins. Dominic sits alone in his cell. Tanya never visited, not once. Vivian visited twice, then stopped. His law school friends vanished the day the story broke. The partners at Hale and Associates removed his name from the letterhead within a week. The firm is now just Associates. No Hale, no legacy. He is finally experiencing what he spent 6 years inflicting on me, complete suffocating isolation. No one to control, no one to discipline, no one to own. The man who made me feel small is now living inside 4 walls that make him smaller every day. I'd be lying if I said I felt no satisfaction. I did, but it faded quicker than I expected. Because real revenge isn't watching someone suffer. It's reclaiming what they stole. Your peace, your power, your name. Last month, I started volunteering at the Atlanta Family Crisis Center. I sit with women who look like I used to long sleeves and summer makeup, thick as armor eyes darting toward the door. I don't tell them what to do. I tell them my story. And when they're ready, when they make the call, pack the bag, walk out the door, I'm there. Because someone was there for me. A cousin who came back, a friend who left brochures, a doctor who documented what she saw, a pastor who told the truth, a lawyer who fought like it was personal, a judge who chose justice over loyalty. It takes a village to survive a monster. I had the best village a woman could ask for. My name is Naomi Carter, 34 years old, pharmacist, survivor, a woman who was told she was nobody from Savannah with a dead mama and a missing cousin. My mama raised me right in the time she had. My cousin came home, and I am still standing. I am not what happened to me. I am what I chose to become after it. This morning, Renata came by with coffee. We sat on the balcony watching the sun rise over Decatur like we used to watch fireflies in Savannah.
You good?
She asked. I touched the gardenia charm on my wrist, still a little crooked, still surviving. Yeah, for the first time in a long time, I'm good. If this story taught you anything, I hope it's this. The most dangerous cages are built by people who say they love you. And the key isn't strength. It's the moment you stop believing you deserve to be locked in. If you're going through something like this, don't wait for the next broken rib. Make the call. You'd be amazed who answers. Share your story in the comments. Subscribe and share this with someone who needs to hear it. You might save a life today.